Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thomas Stone High School for this evening's redistricting hearing for Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School, Charles County's 23rd elementary school. This evening, I am joined by our board chair, Mrs. Moore Lee, our board vice chair, Mrs. Kramer, board member, Mr. Lucas, board member, Ms. Thomas, and board member, Ms. Thomas. We're also joined by our superintendent of schools, Dr. Maria Navarro, and our presenter for this evening is Steve Andrews, who's our director of planning and construction. Mr. Andrews also served as one of our two co-facilitators for the redistricting process. This evening, we will have a brief presentation overview of the redistricting process, showing you the zone for the two proposed zones for elementary 23, Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School, and also some additional elementary schools that surround Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School that also would be potentially impacted by one of the two proposals. And at the very end of this evening, after the presentation, for our live audience members, we have opportunity for our audience members to provide any comments they would like, or if they had any questions for us. So at this point, I turn it over to Mr. Andrews for our presentation.
Thank you. Good evening. Let's get right into it. So we're going to go through the PowerPoint. This is the same PowerPoint that was used for the board's March 12th presentation. This goes through both Plan A and Plan B. The only update to this is the actual official naming is now on this. It is now Margaret Jamison Thornton Elementary School, and the slide reflects as such. So a couple background facts here. The school is scheduled to open for school year 25-26. The cost of construction is about $45.5 million. The building is going to be just over 91,000 square feet, and it is proposed to have a state-rated capacity of 778 students, and it's located at 5860 St. David Drive in White Plains within the Highlands neighborhood off St. Charles Parkway. And this is an actual aerial of the construction, about a month old. So next we have the superintendent's charge. The committee was charged with creating two alternatives that will establish a new school boundary for Margaret Jamison Thornton Elementary School. This is not a comprehensive elementary school redistricting process. The goal is to create an attendance zone for Margaret Jamison Thornton Elementary School while addressing any overcrowding issues at surrounding elementary schools. Board policies 1900, 1910, and 1930 establish procedures for redistricting. Our goal is to move some students among surrounding elementary schools with due consideration of state-rated capacities and anticipated growth using target enrollments provided by the school and county government staff. All right, next we have policy 1900. I'm not going to read all of this, but this is the policy that gives the primary responsibility of how this redistricting is done. It looks at the enrollment patterns because obviously they do change from time to time, and trying to maintain high-quality educational programs. Go ahead, next. Next, we have policy 1900. These are factors to consider when redistricting. So at a minimum, things that are considered are school capacity, impact on educational program, student enrollment trends, age or condition of school buildings involved in redistricting, and financial considerations. Additional factors related to policy 1910 are transportation. We want to minimize the distance to the school and the number of students being transported and the time they spend on the bus. We also look at the size of the student population to be relocated. Are there natural boundaries or communities or neighborhoods within these areas that the students reside? And there's also a desirability of limiting redistricting for elementary or middle school students to once every 3 years. And then a desirability of limiting the movement of high school students till after their initial enrollment. Just for clarification on this last point about the elementary students, we did do a comprehensive elementary school redistricting when Billingsley Elementary School was done and opened, which took effect in 2019. So any of the students that would have started at Billingsley Elementary School will be in middle school by the time that this redistricting would take effect. Next is policy 1930. This lays out that the board has the final decision on the boundary adjustments and will take into consideration information from the committee's work, as well as the superintendent's recommendation and any public information that comes forward through the public hearing process or information submitted through the website. So some general guidelines that the redistricting committees were given as they did their work, that all neighborhoods are eligible for redistricting except those that are walking zones. because obviously we don't want to create a situation where we're having to go into a neighborhood and bus kids that are able to walk to their current school. Whenever possible, neighborhoods should not be divided between schools. Let me clarify that a little bit, because there are neighborhoods that share names that are not connected neighborhoods. The example I like to use for that is when you think about Dorchester neighborhood in St. Charles, there are two adjacent neighborhoods on St. Patrick's called Dorchester Greens and Dorchester Mews, which are not connected, which do not necessarily go to the same school as the regular Dorchester neighborhood. We also want to account for current and future residential development when we put together the targets for redistricting. Consult with transportation regarding the effect of bus routes when moving students. And then when you start to create your new zones, you work from the location of the new zone outward, from where the school is actually located outward, to establish your zone. If you're taking from an existing zone, you start peeling away from the outer edges of the zone first, instead of just going in towards the middle and grabbing a chunk. You're working your way systematically as you start to create your boundaries. Okay, next, the redistricting timeline. In October of 2023, October 10th to be exact, the announced during the monthly board meeting on October 25th, 2023, a redistricting community meeting was held to gather any public input before the committee started their work. That was held at St. Charles High School. The committees met from November of 2023 to January of 2024 every week to develop their two alternatives. In January, the committees finalized their two alternatives. March 12th, the committee presented their recommendations to the board at the board meeting. The first official public hearing on the two plans was held on April 2nd at St. Charles High School at 6 p.m. We have the second public hearing tonight at Thomas Stone. On May 21st, the superintendent will give her recommendation to the board at the board meeting. Following day, there will be a public hearing on the superintendent's recommendation. That will take place at the Starkey Building in the boardroom at 6 p.m. And then on June 11th, the board is scheduled to review and vote on the plan. So the redistricting committee, let's talk a little bit about the makeup. As mentioned, they were announced on October 10th, and it was through a random draw of names that were sent from the schools. So the committee was made up of 8 elementary school parents, 2 middle school parents, 1 high school parent, 4 administrators, but these administrators were not from the elementary schools. They were from either high school, middle school, or either of our 2 centers, as well as 3 community at-large members. There were several staff from Charles County Public Schools there supporting the committee, and staff from Charles County government related to development impacts, and the town of La Plata related to development impacts, that were there to support the redistricting committee and their work. The committees met independently, so we would start our meetings together and they would break off and work independently. So each group worked where they were not seeing what the other was doing, so they were working to develop their own independent proposals that you will see here in a minute on Plan A and Plan B. So this is a map that represents our current elementary school boundaries. A little hard to see, but again, this is all on the website. So if we look at Plan A, and the overview of Plan A moves 567 current elementary school students. The Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School zone for Plan A moves students in from Middleton Elementary School, from Matula Elementary School, and from Billingsley Elementary School. So you'll actually see on the map here, they say they're coming in from the school. There's also a little small 4-digit number. That's the block numbers. The state rated capacity is proposed at 778. There's no official enrollment because obviously the school's not open. Projected enrollment for 25-26 is 536. The projected enrollment for 28-29 is 629 students. And this is what the zone looks like without any of the move-ins, move-outs, or the block numbers, so you can get a feel for what that is. And next, we have Billingsley Elementary School for Alternative A. What you'll notice here on this map is you have areas in red. They're moving out of Billingsley, and those are actually moving to Jamison Thornton Elementary School. And then you have the green areas that are the rest of the zone. So the state rated capacity of Billingsley is 758. Their official September 30, 23 enrollment was 698. Their projected 25, 26 is 523, and their projected 28, 29 is 523. And this is their zone after redistricting, proposal Plan A. Next, we have Malcolm Elementary School. You have one block that you see in red that is moving out, proposed to move out of Malcolm to Ryan in Plan A. State rated capacity is 394. September 30th official enrollment of 23 was 427. Projected for 25, 26 is 328. Projected for 28, 29 is 330. And this would be what the zone is after redistricting with Plan A. Next, we have Matula Elementary School. Again, you have area in red moving out. That would be moving to Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School. And the rest of it would be the remaining zone. State rated capacity is 656. Official September 30, 23 is 578. Projected 25, 26 enrollment is 547. And the 28, 29 projected enrollment is 601. And this would be Matula zone after Plan A's redistricting. Next, we have Arthur Middleton Elementary School. You'll see areas in red at the bottom that are moving out of Middleton to the new Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School. One point to make, the largest of those red blocks, the one sort of in the middle, is the actual block where the school is located. So that is one of the main reasons that's moving into there. State rated capacity is 507. September 30, 23 enrollment was 696. Projected 25, 26 is 277, and projected 28, 29 is 278. One point I'd like to add here, Middleton Elementary School will be opening next year as a dual language immersion program, starting with pre-K and kindergarten, correct? Yeah, with pre-K and kindergarten. And as a result of that, we actually targeted that the redistricting committees were working with a number that's a little less than state rated capacity to leave room for these programs that are going to be created there. So next you'll see what Plan A's zone for Middleton looks like after redistricting. And then we have Neal Elementary School. You have several blocks to the right-hand side in the lighter green moving in from JP Ryan. Neal's state rated capacity is 745. September 30, 23 was 589. Projected 25, 26 enrollment is 578. And projected 28, 29 is 578. After redistricting on Plan A, that's what Neal's zone would be. Then we have Ryan Elementary School, JP Ryan. JP Ryan has the area in red moving out of their current zone to Neal, and the area in green moving out of Malcolm into their zone. State rated capacity is 640. September 30, 23 enrollment, 619. Projected 25, 26 at 595. Projected 28, 29 at 689. And this would be JP Ryan's zone under Alternative A after redistricting proposal. Okay, now we jump into Alternative B. Alternative B moves 1,044 students. Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School under Alternative B brings in students from Middleton, brings in students from Matula, brings in students from Billingsley. A couple extra blocks that are slightly different than you saw in Plan A, but a lot of similarities. State rated capacity at 778. School's not open, so there's no official enrollment for 23. Projected enrollment would be for 25, 26 would be 618. Projected enrollment for 28, 29 would be 731. And this is the proposed zone for Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School after redistricting under Plan B. Berry Elementary School, you have one block in red in the upper left that would be moving out of Berry to Diggs. State rated capacity 724. September 30, 23 enrollment at 753. Projected enrollment for school year 25, 26 at 591. Projected enrollment for 28, 29 at 633. And this would be Berry zone after redistricting under Plan A. Billingsley Elementary School, you have a handful of blocks moving out of Billingsley to Middleton. You have one red block adjacent to the other red blocks in the upper area that's moving to Wade. And then you have a block to the upper left that's in the darker green moving in from Diggs. State rated capacity, 758. September 30, 23 enrollment, 698. Projected enrollment for 25-26 at 642. Projected enrollment 28-29 at 654. This would be Billingsley zone after redistricting on Plan B. Next, we have Diggs Elementary School. You have one green block moving in from Berry in the upper area and one red block in the lower area moving out from Diggs to Billingsley. State rated capacity of Diggs is 725. September 30, 23 enrollment, 846. Projected 25-26 enrollment at 676 and projected 28-29 at 687. This would be Diggs zone after redistricting on Plan B. Excuse me. Next, we have Matula Elementary School. You have blocks in red moving out to Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School. State rated capacity at 656. Official September 30, 23 enrollment at 578. Projected enrollment for 25-26 at 478. And projected enrollment for 28-29 at 570. And this is Matula zone after redistricting on Plan B. Next, we have T.C. Martin Elementary School. You have one block in the lower left area here in green moving into T.C. Martin from Mitchell. T.C. Martin is currently undergoing a full renovation. They'll be back in their building this coming school year, and their renovation does include expansion. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but just as a note. State rated capacity is 450. That's prior to the renovation. The enrollment for September 30, 23 is 551. Projected enrollment for school year 25-26 is 572, and school year 28-29 at 589. That would be Martin zone after redistricting on Plan B. Next, we have Middleton, Arthur Middleton Elementary School on Plan B. So you have an area in green in the upper area that's moving in from J.P. Ryan, and then you have several blocks in green on the left that are moving in from Billingsley. And then you have the blocks in red to the lower area that would be moving out from Middleton to Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School. State rated capacity is 507. Official September 23 enrollment, 696. Projected enrollment for school year 25-26, 397. Projected enrollment for school year 28-29 at 398. Again, Middleton is the dual language immersion school that will be starting as kindergarten pre-K next year and growing each year at a grade level. So this would be the Middleton zone after redistricting on Plan B. We have Walter J. Mitchell Elementary School on Plan B. You have one block in red in the upper right area moving out of Mitchell to T.C. Martin. State rated capacity of Mitchell is 578. Official September 30, 23 enrollment is 605. Projected enrollment for school year 25-26 is 550. Projected enrollment for school year 28-29 is 555. And this would be the Mitchell Elementary School zone after redistricting under Plan B. Next, we have J.P. Ryan Elementary School. You have one block in red on the upper left area that would be moving to Arthur Middleton Elementary School. State rated capacity is 640. September 30, 23 enrollment was 619. Projected enrollment for school year 25-26 is 574. Projected enrollment for 28-29 is 631. And this would be the J.P. Ryan zone after redistricting under Plan B. Next, we have William Wade Elementary School. You have one block in green along the bottom right that is moving in from Billingsley. State rated capacity is 679. Official September 30, 23 enrollment, 636. Projected enrollment for school year 25-26 is 576. Projected enrollment for 28-29 is 578. This would be the Wade zone after redistricting on Plan B. Next, we have a few charts. We're going to spend a minute on these. These are summation charts, but these are very helpful. So they list every one of the schools that is impacted or under consideration, whether they be on Plan A or Plan B. Starting with, we'll just go across from the top, starting with Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School. State rated capacity is the next column, which is proposed at 778. There is no official September 30 enrollment. And under alternative A for school year 25-26, they're at 536. And on alternative B, they're at 618. A couple of notes. You'll notice that there are some schools in both alternative A and alternative B that say no movement. That is because in that particular plan, that school is not impacted. Okay, so their zone would stay as is now. We also have the asterisk beside Middleton to reference the starting for school year 24-25 as the dual language immersion program that we mentioned before. And we have 3 schools under state rated capacity that have an asterisk beside their number. We have Malcolm Elementary School and Ryan Elementary School. They both received full day kindergarten additions that opened for this school year and have not had their official state rated capacity updated yet. That is something that will be done. And then TC Martin also has an asterisk. TC Martin is undergoing the renovation and will open this coming fall. And it is a renovation addition, so its capacity is expanded slightly for that. So that will be adjusted as well through a state rated capacity adjustment. Next. So next we have the same slide except for the 5-year target, starting with Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School, 778 state rated capacity. Alternative A lists them at 629 students, and alternative B lists them at 731 students. Again, same footnotes on state rated capacities on Middleton and notes on schools that are impacted or not impacted if you see the no movement. That doesn't change whether it's the 2-year or the 5-year. Additional resources, you can find information on redistricting on the board's webpage, which is listed here. ccboe/parents/redistricting-elementary-school. There also is a redistrict@ccboe.com email for comments and information. Next are the remaining steps. After tonight, this is the second public hearing on the 2 proposals on Plan A and Plan B. The next steps will be that the superintendent will make her selection, and it will be presented at the board meeting on May 21st. So that will be officially listed on board docs when that happens. And that's May 21st. And then there's a public hearing the next day, May 22nd, on the superintendent's recommendation. That will be in the boardroom at the Starkey Building in La Plata at 6 p.m. And then on June 11th, the board is scheduled to take up a vote on redistricting. And that whole decision will not take effect for an entire school year until Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School is scheduled to open for school year 25-26. We do the redistricting a year ahead to make sure there is time for folks to be aware of what changes are happening so that everyone has ample time to be notified. And with that, that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. At this time, I'd like to welcome, we had a few people who have signed up to speak. So at this time, I'd like to welcome speaker number 1 to the microphone. When you come up, just if you could please introduce yourself, and then you'll have the opportunity to provide your comments and if you have any questions. So at this time, speaker number 1, please.
Good evening. Good evening. I don't need a mic.
I have a question.
You might need a mic because we're recording.
Recording it. Sorry.
The maps I got, I was kind of a little bit confused, and I know you went over it, but could we go back to the Malcolm slide of the option A? I just want to make sure I'm understanding this clearly.
Sure.
So when I go back to my code, I'm 1131 on option A for Malcolm. Does that mean that we're not moving to Margaret Thornton? Because the email I got said that we may be impacted.
So the
I'm kinda
email was
confused.
sent out to any of the schools that are impacted. That does not mean that you are moving. It means that there is a change proposed to your zone. Hang on a minute while I flip it. The change, if you look at, can you go back one, Mike? So the change here on Malcolm's zone is that big block in red
Right.
is proposed to move out of Malcolm to JP Ryan. Everything
Okay.
else on Malcolm's zone does not change.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. Let me get to the map so I can tell you.
It's sort of right in the
Yeah,
middle.
1131.
So
Yes.
yeah, you'd be 1131 is kind of right there below
Perfect.
Malcolm. So that is not proposing to change.
Perfect.
So that's on Plan A, and on Plan B, they did not do anything with Malcolm.
Perfect. That concludes my.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. At this time, is speaker number 2, if you would come forward, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Another Malcolm parent.
Yeah, there we go.
It don't have to be this low. So I guess probably afterwards, if someone can assist me to help me find my zone. I couldn't find it prior to the meeting, like I didn't understand. So really, I don't even know where I am on the map, honestly. But I do see now that what's happening with some people that's in Malcolm Zone is that JP Ryan is where some of them will be going. Okay, and Plan A. And then Plan B, it's no change to anyone at all. Okay, so if someone could just help me figure out the number I am. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Speaker number 3. Please come forward, please. Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Well, I'm from Barry.
Could you tilt the mic up so we can hear you? Thank you.
You can
move it up. Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yep.
Yes,
Okay. I see that my grid code is 3781.
Is that from Barry?
Barry.
3781.
Yes, and you are being proposed to be moved under Plan B.
Okay. So, because I have two. I was just told that it's only for elementary. I was a little confused too.
Yes.
So it's with the voting. It's just the board is going to vote. It's
So
not
the next
hearing-
steps from here will be that the superintendent will look at the 2 plans and she will choose what she wants to move forward, whether it be Plan A or Plan B, or she can ask for a modification to one of those. So one thing will be brought forward instead of 2 options, and that will be what the next public hearing will be on. And then the board will ultimately consider that, and the board has the authority as well to make a modification to the superintendent's recommendation.
Okay. So with my zone, they will be going to Diggs.
So you under Plan, you're not impacted under Plan A. Under Plan B, you are in the red block that's there on the left,
Right.
being proposed to be moved from Barry to Diggs.
And that takes effect 25, 26.
It would take effect for school year 25, 26, yes.
Okay. Okay. That was it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I know I spoke with a few other audience members as you came in, so if you have reconsidered, if you would like to speak, we welcome anyone else who has any comments or any questions to come up to the microphone.
Okay, good evening. Can you all hear me? Okay, so my name is Kelly Snipes. Good evening to you all. I have a kindergartner that is at Billingsley Elementary, and I will say when we got this, I was disappointed to see this possible rezoning. I live in 3862, which is Aspen Woods, so in both options, she would be moving. She would either be moving to the new school or she would be moving to Middleton. So I did hear you say that in the presentation that one of the things that you all wanted to do was to minimize time on the bus. I don't see how that works for us because right now for her to go to Billingsley where we are at Aspen Woods, it's literally 2 minutes. Our house is here, Billingsley is over there. So I was kind of confused to see how our neighborhood even got involved in that. And then to go to Middleton, we are in White Plains. Middleton is in Waldorf, and that is actually 8 minutes on the bus. And then the other school is so new, I couldn't kind of really do a map quest to see, but it's definitely going to be more than the 2 minutes. So that is a concern that neighborhood, and we do have a lot of elementary school kids in that neighborhood that know we're not walkers, but I mean, we're right on the cusp. So I just am concerned about that. Number 2, I did hear you say that Middleton is going to have the dual language program, and you said that one is going to grow each year. So by the time this redistricting happens, she will be in 2nd grade. I heard you say that was going to start for pre-K and kindergarten. is that going to grow so that by the time she's in second grade, would she have the opportunity to be a part of that if indeed she moves to Middleton?
So if she goes to Middleton and she is in second grade, she will not be part of the cohort that is growing for the dual language. She will continue in English only through second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then a question that I had was,
Unless she can test in. So I don't know
So
if
that
there's a
is an
second
option?
language. Yep, if there's a second language and she can test in and she has the level of proficiency comparable to her peers in the class, then she could actually go right into a dual language program.
okay. And then how are you going to make the final decision on whether you're going to go with Plan A or Plan B? Is that ultimately going to be a vote for the board and the majority rules, or how is that going to be determined?
Yes, so the superintendent, I will bring a recommendation to the board. It, as Steve mentioned, it may not be option A or B.
Okay.
Part of the hearings, and we're very glad that you all came out, and please encourage your neighbors to look at this website and to email us if they're not coming in, to just email us once people kind of wake up and think about that. And so I'll bring forward the recommendation. The board, the very next day, we have yet another hearing, and I feel like we'll see many more people at the very next hearing. Then it'll be an opportunity again for the board to listen. The board's position here is just to take notes and listen to it as their thing. And then they do take a majority vote in June to see which option. They can also put on the table their own option as well.
Okay, so there could be a possibility that maybe no movement and they could possibly stay, maybe not A or B. There could be some other options that could be.
Yes, there could be.
Okay, and then final thing, is there anything outside of what you just said that parents, other than coming to the hearings and emails, is there, if this does get decided on either A or B, is there any type of petition or anything that we could do to say, well, no, I really don't want my child to move, I'd like my child to stay? Is there any type of opportunity such as that?
No, I mean, parents always have, there's a process in the school system for requests for change of school.
Okay.
But it has its very specific reasons of why you can do that. We are hoping that we hear from the community now through these multiple hearing sessions. We try to do them a year in advance. I believe that you got the direct Synergy mail and a couple of emails. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the interest of very busy parents to understand what this means for their children, especially the ones that will have children still in that age group or are going to have going in. So we also ask your assistance for everybody to be able to email that email address that was there, that's on the website, or physically come. And also, as we live stream these opportunities or as we put them out there, that more people share the information through their social networks so that more families are aware and can see what's happening.
Okay, will do. Again, I would just ask that you all please look. Again, my grid number is 3862. I would ask that you look at 3862, specifically the Aspen Woods neighborhood. Like I said, we are literally 2 minutes from here to there. So that is a huge impact on that neighborhood in particular and those kids. And it will definitely increase their time on the bus and just move them essentially from their community. I mean, again, we're right there. So I thank you all for this time.
Thank you for coming.
Good evening. I appreciate the color codes very much. My daughter's at Diggs. So if we could go back to that one, because I was just trying to keep up with who goes in and who goes out and color coding and fun stuff.
Diggs is only impacted in Plan B, not Plan A.
Correct. I did catch that part. So looking at, not this one, because I think that's is it the Billings one also that has Diggs it's 2 ups from this one that has Diggs Elementary in
So
green.
you got the red block at the lower area there that moves from Diggs to Billingsley.
From Say again.
The red block that you see on here, this is the Diggs map. That
Yes.
red block is indicating that it's moving out of Diggs' zone, and it says on there that it's moving to Billingsley, where you have the green block up top that is coming in. Green means coming in, the red means going out. The green up top is coming in from Barry.
There's the color code I needed. Thank you.
Thank you for this presentation. My question is regarding the third option that you just mentioned of neither A or B. How do we get there? And then if that change is implemented, I guess was it June that you said you all would be making that? How do we as parents, how do we get a say in a third option when we're preparing ourselves for either A or B?
So there may not be a C option. So if you recall, when Steve was presenting, no staff kind of came up with option A or B. What we do is we go through a process where we select community members to work through these problems, because it's a domino effect, right? Once you move a certain portion, it changes and it's a domino effect. I am in the process of attending these hearings, reading the emails, and listening to families about the concerns. I've been studying the trajectory that these two community groups took to understand why this block was moved and the ripple effects that it had in other schools and so forth. So I have been a student also of it. What if I come up with another option that I think, as I study these and listening to the community feedback, I may bring that option to the board. Then as soon as we do that, we will present that option like we have A and B. And then the following day, it's also an opportunity for people to come out in person. But remember, the board that's May 22nd. The board doesn't make a decision until June. And so there is ways that if there's momentum, let's say there is an option C that comes forward, the board is not going to make any decisions until June 11th. So there's all that time to also reach out and email, and we compile the emails and all the feedbacks. We've gotten some emails with questions like, is this my block? But we haven't gotten tons of emails around. We don't like the woman right before you that talked about, this is my neighborhood, why is it moving, kind of things. And so we look at those also as we move forward, and we have to present it to the board so they can make a full informed decision based on all the ways we've collected feedback.
Awesome. Thank you. Billingsley. Mhm.
Good evening. Thank you all for providing this platform. It might be difficult to answer this question right now, but in thinking about the overcrowding issue with all the homes being built on St. Charles Parkway, there's so many, within that the new school's boundary, it might be a future concern that that school may be overcrowded. So what is the plan, or what is the formula that you guys use when there's new developers coming in all the time and they're constantly building, and you have this new school that's already being, populated by the surrounding schools, not even factoring the other homes coming in? So I was just curious on how that's managed. Thank you.
And there's two arms to this, and I'll talk about both of them. One of them really has to do with county government and with development, and that is a process they have through what they call their adequate public facilities ordinance, which is the way they regulate growth. So that process is something where developers have to get approvals and have to wait on lists for available seats unless it gets past a 6-year mark, and then they're able to start moving forward regardless if there's seats. The only exception for that would be something like St. Charles, where they have a master plan with their Docket 90 agreement, which entitles them through that agreement to a certain number of units per year, or the town of El Plato or the town of Indian Head, which are their own incorporated townships and have their own policies that regulate their growth. So that is how development is regulated as it moves forward. Now, when we talk about schools and the impact as it relates there, we have to work within the regulations of the state of Maryland. And the state of Maryland says that in order to even approve you for planning approval, which is the first step for a new school, you have to be overcrowded. You have to have a majority of the students to fill that school in the surrounding zone already existing. So as a quick example, if we're talking 800 student school, we have to have 401 or more students in the adjacent schools already there existing to say we're overcrowded, that we meet that threshold. Additionally, they want to see that within 7 years, we are going to fill that school to the state rated capacity. That's what the state wants to see in order to approve the project and then start to plan the construction dollars they're going to give us to actually start the work. In Charles County, we are 64% state share for construction. And so what that means, of all the bricks and mortar that go into building a building, the state will pay 64%. There are a lot of other costs that are 100% bore by the local, but the building itself is 64% by the state, 36% by the locals. To go to your other question about development, when you look at Billingsley Elementary, when you look at Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School, there is a lot of development that is happening right around it. There is almost 800 units that are going to be in the Highlands neighborhood that is surrounding the school. Part of the redistricting effort, as you saw the block numbers, was making sure that the committees knew how many kids were coming out of those blocks from new development in certain timeframes. So we had to look at 1 to 2 year time frame and 3 to 5 year timeline. So as they created their zone, they looked at it and said, okay, this is how many kids are going to be moving because there's development there, and the county or the town gave numbers corresponding to the blocks. So as the committee member moved and said, okay, this block has got 20 kids, but we know they're building houses, and in 2 years there's going to be another 5 kids, we got to move 25 kids in to count towards that. So we are working to project that number to account for that. So that's one of the things that goes there. The other thing I want to add is that the development as you come further down St. Charles Parkway is actually in the town of Oplata. So the stuff you see as you get down there, that's all part of what's called Pine Grove, or was known as Heritage Green. There is a school site in that neighborhood that will be an elementary school. It's just a matter of time when we get to the justification of there. We also have at least one other elementary school site within St. Charles with the Docket 90 master plan, and we have a school site that we already own up on Western Parkway. So we have several locations where we can go to do the next school, but it's just a matter of where the need is at that time. Mike?
I would like to add a couple things. So one of the things that both committees were tasked with was with Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School, Elementary 23, was not to fill that school to capacity when it opened. So I'll refer to this chart here. So the school is anticipated to have a state-rated capacity of 778 students when it opens. And you see with the two plans, Group A proposal would have 536 students there when that school opens, and Plan B would have 618 students there. So both of those groups in year one had that school under capacity, and Group A has it under capacity by over 200 students, and Group B has it under capacity by about 160 students. So allowing for that growth. The second point I'll illustrate, we referred to Billings Elementary School and the countywide redistricting we did in 2019, which took effect in 2019 with the opening of Billings Elementary School. It has a state rated capacity of 758. So we took the same approach with Billingsley with those two groups. We tasked both of those groups not to fill that school to capacity. So when we get to the fall, the start of school year 24-25, that Billingsley will still be under a state rate capacity. So back on September 30th of this school year, they were at 698 students. So they are 60 students under their state rate capacity. So we knew that there was going to be growth in that Billingsley zone once it was created. And we tasked them to make sure that school was not filled from the beginning. And now with this opportunity with redistricting taking effect 6 years later for 25-26, there'll be an opportunity to again adjust Billingsley to make sure that we remain under that state rate capacity.
Yeah, and the target that was set for Thornton Elementary School for the groups for the opening date was 650, and then the 28-29, which is 3 years out, was 730. So we wanted to make sure that as they looked at it, that was a target. That was not a stop that they had to get to that and go. If they were a little below or a little above, if that's what their committee decided, that was fine. But we gave them those targets because, as Mr. Heim mentioned, the last thing we want to do is build this brand new school and in 2 years have it so full that we're talking about portable classrooms. That doesn't work, that really doesn't do any justice to anything that needs to happen there, educational program-wise, building-wise, all of those things. So we intentionally set those targets lesser than the state rated capacity threshold.
Thinking about the previous lady who came up here, in my zone where my home is, my neighborhood, I walk out my house, I look directly at Barry. So I'm trying to understand, how did we get grouped into moving? I'm looking directly at Barry. Like, I walk out, I'm at Barry, so I'm trying to understand if she mentioned us move or minimizing being on the bus and everything, it makes it longer.
So there are a lot of factors that the committee members are supposed to look at, and they ask us questions. We have folks from our transportation department that are there to support, and they're asking, hey, if we do this, is that a concern on transportation? So they ask the questions, we just answer them. We don't direct them which way they go, one way or the other. But part of what is proposed on B related to Barry is trying to put some kids away from Barry because their enrollment number is up.
Right.
Diggs lost some kids to Billingsley. It's the domino that the superintendent talked about, where as you grab some kids from Billingsley to start Jameson-Thornton Elementary, Margaret Jameson-Thornton Elementary zone, you're trying to backfill some of those kids from Billingsley, which means you're taking them from Diggs, which means you're relieving a little bit off of Barry to Diggs to kind of balance all of that. So that's the domino that the superintendent mentioned.
I understand, because I get it. I see the numbers being over. I understand. That's why I'm just trying to understand. If I'm looking at Barry when I walk out, only thing that's separating me is 228.
The only absolute when it comes to that is if you're in the walking zone. That's the only absolute guarantee that you would not be moved.
Well, how would you be in the walking zone for Barry because of the way it's situated? It's on 228. I don't see.
It's just a example of any school. The only absolute guarantee is if you were in the walking zone.
I mean, does Barry have a walking zone? Nothing.
No, Barry's don't have a walk zone.
Oh, okay. So that's what I'm trying to understand. I'm like, I don't see any houses except one.
And I will tell you one thing, the one thing, whenever school systems do redistricting, the one thing that we get questions about every single time is, why can't I go to the school closest to my house, right? And I think it's a viability issue of multiple indicators. Is this question of, sometimes it's how overcrowded the school is, how the neighborhoods around it, how densely populated they are that feed into that school. There is the question of walkability, but Barry, it doesn't have a neighborhood that surrounds it like other schools do. And so that's part of what we do. And so that's important for you to come out and say, I live in this block, and I have these concerns about how it came to be. And I will tell you that the teams of people that volunteer to do this work for us and come up with ideas had to make some decisions, because it does become a domino effect as soon as you start working with one school. And it sometimes may not necessarily be a block that is the closest. So all of this testimony that you're giving allows also for me to go back and look at not just how they thought through their process, what's the best solution for that, but then what are some other things that we can look into, and that's part of this whole ongoing process.
Okay, thank you.
Also, just something else to consider, and I wasn't on the board when the middle school redistricting happened, but I know Mr. Hancock and Mr. Lucas were, and there were some questions then about, I think some kids at Stoddard, which is in Waldorf, right, got moved to Summers, which is in La Plata. And then because some kids were being moved out of Summers, because Summers was overcrowded, and I think went to Pickawaxen, right? Is that where they went? And so the parents were like, well, that's a lot further, right, from my home. But the issue was where there was capacity, right, where there was openings. And so sometimes it may not make sense to go to a school that's closer because, as Mr. Andrews said, you may have overcrowding there, whereas a school further out doesn't. And so, you know, it's just kind of how they do the numbers and that domino effect that he was talking about. So just wanted to give that example.
Good evening. My name is Sophia, and I'm a Diggs parent. My question is, sorry, I don't know why I'm so nervous, but how does Is there any sort of collaboration with the city or county government with infrastructure, and particularly on St. Charles Parkway, about there being lights and because there's like a lot of highway to cross, especially making like the turns out of those new neighborhoods. And so I was wondering if you had any insight about whether there were any plans to put traffic lights where the school buses will be regularly traveling up and down the highway.
Sure. We don't oversee that, but we do get advised when they're going to be doing that. I will give you an example though with Billingsley Elementary School, the traffic light that's in front of the school board actually had to do. We had to build that, we had to pay for it, and we have to pay the electric bill on that for the rest of its life because it's there to service the school. With the neighborhood, it is my understanding that the developer has asked for a traffic signal in front of Margaret Jameson Thornton Elementary School where St. David Drive will come out on St. Charles Parkway. But there is a threshold to meet through the county through their standards as to when that would happen. And so they'll advise us when that's going to start. And obviously that may impact the way the buses arrive or dismiss during that time, or after it's completed, they may be able to do certain movements differently.
Would that be our responsibility?
I'm sorry?
If the light is built, would that be our responsibility?
If the light was built?
Yes.
No, that would not.
It would not be ours?
No.
Okay.
No, that would, anything at that intersection would be on the developer, would not be on the board.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I have another quick question. The public hearing on the 22nd, do you have a time for that yet? Is it going to be 6 p.m. as well?
Yes, 6 p.m. And it'll
Okay.
be at the Jesse L. Starkey Administration Building, the main board building in La Plata on Radio Station Road.
Okay, very good. And then can you put up the next slide that has the email address again, please? Thank you very much.
And for anyone who's listening, I'll repeat that. The email address is redistrict@ccboe.com.
Again, would anyone else like to come up and provide any comments, or does anyone else have any questions? Again, I'd just like to highlight again the next steps. So on Tuesday, May 21st, at our next board meeting, our superintendent will give a recommendation. It could be A, it could be B, or it could be a modification to A or B. The very next evening on May 22nd, as Mr. Andrews just mentioned, at the Starkey Building in La Plata, we'll have another hearing, so the public will have an opportunity to provide comments on proposal that is put forth by Dr. Navarro. And then on Tuesday, June 11th, our June board meeting, the board will have an opportunity to have a discussion and hopefully take action on a proposal that is put forth by the superintendent. But as Mr. Andrews mentioned earlier in the meeting, the board could make a modification to the recommendation that's put forth to the board. And again, for our viewing public, I would welcome you to, if you have questions, you could provide them through that email address that has been mentioned a number of times, redistricting@ccboe.com. But also, if you just don't have any questions, but you want to provide comments, and you were not able to attend one of the hearings, this would be an opportunity for you through that through that email address to provide your comments. Any comments that are provided to us, we will compile a list of those comments, and we will share those with the superintendent for the two hearings that we've had, or any comments leading up to Dr. Navarro's proposal to the board. And then the same thing, we'll provide those same comments to our board members so they have an opportunity to go through and hear any comments for anyone who is not able to come out publicly and speak.
Just to also add on to that, for the May 21st meeting, the superintendent's proposal will be available on the board docs, which is on the Board of Ed's website, so that you'll be able to see that with the maps similar to this if you're not able to watch the meeting itself.
And on that same webpage, any of our previous presentations are attached to that webpage.
Hi again. For the rezone, how does that affect which middle school your child will go to in the future? Like, I'm a Diggs parent. I don't think my zone is affected, but like for somebody who would be going to Davis, if they're at a different school, would they be going to elementary school? Would they then be zoned to go to maybe Hanson or?
So the elementary school zones are independent of the middle or the high school. We do not have a true feeder system here in Charles County. So whatever your elementary school zone is now, if you were changed for redistricting, your middle school zone would not change. Your middle school zone was adjusted potentially through the redistricting for comprehensive middle school redistricting that was done that took effect with the renovation expansion of Benjamin Stoddard, which took effect in 22. So that was the last time middle schools were adjusted, and that hasn't changed since then and is not proposed to change. Same thing for the high schools. High schools were looked at and adjusted when St. Charles High School opened in 2014, and those are the current zones, and those are not proposing to be changed. So only if you're impacted right now, it's only elementary. It would not be middle or high school right now.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to thank everyone who attended this evening. I'd also like to thank you for your input and any questions you had, and I hope you had an opportunity to have those questions asked. I know we have one member here who was going to stay after so we could address her question about her block. But again, we appreciate this is a very helpful process as we move forward in this, getting closer to having a zone for Margaret J. Thornton Elementary School and potentially adjusting some of the neighboring elementary schools to balance out any enrollment issues we have at those schools. So the information you provide is very important for the board to consider and also for our board members to consider. So at this point, this concludes this evening's public hearing, and we look forward to seeing anyone who would like to come out on May 22nd. So thank you and have a good evening.